Welcome to all of you. Today we'll read the famous short story Rikki Tikki Tavi, written by Rudyard Kipling. So let us start the story, and before the story, let us know about the Rudyard Kipling. Joseph Rudyard Kipling was born on 30 December 1865 and died on 18 January 1936. He was an English journalist, short story writer, poet, and novelist. He was born in India, which inspired much of his works. Kipling works of fiction include The Jungle Book, Kim, and many short stories. So let us start to read his short story, Rikki Tikki Tavi. This is a story of the Great War that Rikki Tikki Tavi fought single handed through the bathrooms of a big bungalow in Seoli cantonment. Darzi the tailor bird helped him, and Chuchundar the muskrat, who never comes out into the middle of the floor but always creeps round by the wall, gave him advice. But Rikki Tikki Tavi did the real fighting. He was a mongoose, rather like a little cat in his fur and his tail, but quite like a weasel in his head and his habits. His eyes and the end of his restless nose were pink. He could scratch himself anywhere he pleased. With any leg, front or back, that he chose to use, he could fluff up his tail till it looked like a bottle brush. And his war cry as he skidded through the long grass war, Rikki Tikki Tikki Tick. One day, a high summer flood washed him out of the burrow where he lived with his father and mother and carried him kicking and clucking down a roadside ditch. He found a little wisp of grass floating there and clung to it till he lost his senses. When he received, he was lying on it in the hot sun on the middle of a garden path, very draggled indeed, and a small boy saying, "Here is dead mongoose. Let's have a funeral." "No," said his mother. "Let's take him in and dry him. Perhaps he isn't really dead." They took him into the house, and a big man picked him up between his finger and thumb and said he was not dead, but half choked. So they wrapped him in a cotton wool and warmed him, and he opened his eye and sneezed. "Now," said the big man, he was an Englishman who had just moved into the bungalow, "don't frighten him, and we'll see what he will do." It is the hardest thing in the world to frighten a mongoose because he is eaten up from nose to tail with curiosity. The motto of all the mongoose family is "run and find out." And Rikki Tikki was a true mongoose. He looked at the cotton wool, decided that it was not good to eat, ran all around the table, sat up and put his fur and jumped on the small boy's shoulder. "Don't be frightened, Teddy," said his father. "That is his way of making friends." "Ouch! He is tickling under my chin," said Teddy. Rikki Tikki looked down between the boy's collar and neck, snuffed at his ear, and climbed down to the floor where he sat rubbing his nose. "Good gracious," said Teddy's mother, "and that is the wild creature. I suppose he is so tame because we have been kind to him." "All mongoose are like that," said her husband. "If Teddy doesn't pick him up by the tail or try to put him in a cage, he will run in and out of all the house all day long. Let's give him something to eat." They gave him a little piece of raw meat. Rikki Tikki liked it immensely, and when it was finished, he went out into the veranda and sat in the sunshine and fluffed up his fur to make it dry to the roots. Then he felt better. "There are more things to find out about in this house," he said to himself, "than all my family could find out in all their lives. I shall certainly stay and find out." He spent all that day roaming over the house. He nearly drowned himself in the bathtubs, put his nose into ink on the writing table, and burnt it on the end of the big man's cigar, for he climbed up in the big man's lap to see how writing was done. At nightfall, he ran into Teddy's nursery to watch how kerosene lamps were lighted, and when Teddy went to the bed, Rikki Tikki climbed up too, but he was a restless companion, but because he had to get up and attend to every noise all through the night. He find out what made it. Teddy's mother and father came in. The last thing to look at their boy, at Rikki Tikki, was awake on the pillow. "I don't like that," said Teddy's mother. He may be he may be bite the child. He will do no such thing," said the father. Teddy's safer with that little beast than if he had a bloodhound to watch him. If a snake came into the nursery now, But Teddy's mother wouldn't think of anything so awful. Early in the morning, Tiki came to early breakfast in the veranda riding on Teddy's shoulder, and they gave him banana and some boiled egg, and he sat on all their laps one after another because every well brought up mongoose always hopes to be house mongoose someday and have rooms to run about it. And Rikki Tikki's mother, she used to live in the general's house at Sigoli and had carefully told Rikki what to do if ever he came across white man. Then Rikki Tikki went out into the garden to see what was to be seen. It was a large garden, only half cultivated, with bushes as big as summer houses of Marshall Neil roses, lime and orange trees, clumps of bamboos, and thickets of high grass. Rikki Tikki licked his lips. This is a splendid hunting ground, he said, and his tail grew up bottle brushy at the thought of it, and he scudded up and down the garden, snuffing here and there till he had heard very sorrowful voices in the thorn bush. It was Darcy, the tailor bird, and his wife. They had made a beautiful nest by pulling two big leaves together and stitching them up the edges of with fibers, and had filled the hollow with the cotton and downy fluff. The nest swayed to and fro as they sat on the rim and cried. "What is the matter?" asked Rikki Tikki. "We are very miserable," said Darcy. "One of our babies fell out of the nest yesterday and Nag at him." Said Rikki Tikki, "that is very sad. But I am a stranger here. Who is Nag?" Darji and his wife was only cowered down in the nest without answering, for from the thick grass at the foot of bush there came a low hiss, a horrid cold sound that made Rikki Tikki jump back 2 clear feet. Then, inch by inch, out of the grass rose up the head and a spread hood of Nag, the big black cobra. He was 5 feet long from tongue to tail. When he had lifted one third of him clear of the ground, he stayed balancing to and fro exactly as the dandelion tuft balances in the wind. And he looked at Rikki Tikki with the wicked snake's eye that never changed their expression, whatever the snake may be thinking of. "Who is Nag?" he said. "I am the Nag, the great god Brahm put his mark upon all our people when the first cobra spread his hood to keep the son of Brahman as he slept. Look and be afraid." He spread out his hood more than ever, and Rikki Tikki saw the spectacle mark on the back of it that looks exactly like the eye part of the hook, an eye fastening. He was afraid for the minute, but it is the impossible for a mongoose to stay frightened for any length of time, and thought. And though Rikki Tikki had never met a live cobra before, his mother had fed him on the dead ones, and he knew that all the grown mongoose business in life was to fight and eat snakes. Sorry, to fight and eat snakes. Nag knew that too, and at the bottom of his cold heart, he was afraid. "Well," said Rikki Tikki, and his tail began to flop up again. "Marks or no marks, do you think it is right for you to eat fledglings out of the nest?" Nag was thinking to himself and watching the least little movement in the grass behind the Rikki Tikki. He knew that mongooses in the garden meant death sooner or later for him and his family. But he wanted to get Rikki Tikki off his guard. So he dropped his head a little and put it on one side. "Let us talk," he said. "You ate eggs. What should not I eat birds? Behind you, look behind you," sang Dazi. Rikki Tikki knew better than to waste time in staring. He jumped up in the air as high as he could go, and just under him whizzed by the head of Nag, the Nag's wicked wife, Nagaina. She had crept up behind him, and as he was talking to make an end of him, and he heard her savage hiss as the stroke missed. He came down almost across her back, and if he had been an old mongoose, he would have known that then was the time to break her back with one bite. But he was afraid of the terrible lashing return stroke of the cobra. He bit, indeed, but did not bite long enough, and he jumped clear of Whisking Tail, leaving Nagaina torn and angry. "Wicked, wicked," Darji said Nag, lashing up as high as he could reach toward the nest and the thorn bush. But Darzi had built it out of the reach of the snakes, and it only swayed to and fro. Rikki Tikki felt his eyes growing red and hot. When Mongoose's eyes grow red, he is angry. And he sat back on his tail and hind legs like a little kangaroo. and looked all round him and chattered with rage. But Nag and Nagina had disappeared into the grass. When a snake misses its stroke, it never says anything to give any sign of what it means to do next. Rikki Tikki did not care to follow them, for he did not feel sure that he could manage two snakes at once. So he trotted off to go to gravel path near the house and sat down to think. It was a serious matter for him. If you read the old books of natural history, you will find they say that when the mongoose fights, the snake and happens get bitten. He runs off and eats some herbs that cures him. That is not true. The victory is the only matter of quickness of eye and quickness of foot. Snakes blow against a mongoose jump, and as no eye can follow the motion of a snake's head when it strikes, that makes things much more wonderful than any magic herb. Rikki Tikki knew he was a young mongoose, and it made him all the more pleased to think that he had managed to escape a blow from the behind. It gave him confidence in himself. And when Teddy came running down the path, Rikki Tikki was ready to be patted. But just as Teddy was stopping, something flinched a little in the dust, and a teeny voice said, "Be careful, I am death." It was Karath, the dusty brown snacklings that lies for choice on the dusty earth, and his bite is as dangerous as cobras. But he is so small that nobody thinks of him, and so he does the more harm to people. Rikki Tikki's eyes grey red again, and he danced up to the Karath with the peculiar rocking, swaying motion that he had inherited from his family. It looks very funny, but it is so perfectly balanced a gait that you can fly off from it at any angle you please. And in dealing with snakes, this is an advantage. If Rikki Tikki had only known, he was doing a much more dangerous thing than fighting Nag. For Karath is so small and can turn so quickly that unless Rikki bit him close to the back of the head, he would get the return stroke in his eyes or lip. But Rikki did not know his eyes were all red, and he rocked back and forth, looking for a good place to hold. Karath struck off. Rikki jumped sideways and tried to run in, but the wicked little dusty grey head lashed within a fraction of his shoulder, and he had to jump over the body and had followed his heels close. Teddy shouted out of the house, "Oh, look here! Our mongoose is killing a snake!" And Rikki Tikki heard a scream from Teddy's mother. His father ran out of with his stick, but by the time he came up, Karath had lunged out once too far, and Rikki Tikki had sprung, jumped on the snake's back, dropped his head for between his forelegs, bitten as high up as the back as he could get hold, and rolled away. That bite paralyzed Karath, and Rikki Tikki was just going to eat him up from the tail after the custom of his family at dinner, when he remembered that it is a full meal makes a slow mongoose, and if he wanted all his strength and quickness ready, he must keep himself thin. He went away for a dust bath under the castor oil bushes while Teddy's father beat the dead Karath. What is the use of that? Thought Rikki Tikki. I have settled it all. And then Teddy's mother picked him up from the dust and hugged him, crying that he had saved Teddy's from death. And Teddy's father said that he was a providence, and Teddy looked on the with big scared eye. Rikki Tikki was rather amused at all the views, which of course he did not understand. Teddy's mother might just as well as have petted Teddy for playing in the dust. Rikki was thoroughly enjoying himself. That night at dinner, walking to and fro among the wine glasses of the table, he could have stuffed himself 3 times over with nice things. But he remembered Nag and Nagina, and though it was very pleasant to be patted and petted by Teddy's mother and to sit on Teddy's shoulder, his eyes could get red from time to time, and he would go off into his long war cry, "Rikki Tikki Tikki Tick." Teddy carried him off to the bed and insisted of Rikki Tikki sleeping under his chin. Rikki Tikki was too well bred to bite or scratch, but as soon as Teddy was asleep, he went off for his nightly walk round the house, and in the dark he ran up against Chuchundar, the muskrat creeping round by the wall. Chuchundar is broken-hearted little beast. He whimpers and cheeps all the night, trying to make up his mind to run into the middle of the room, but he never gets there. "Don't kill me," said Chuchundar, almost weeping. "Rikki Tikki, don't kill me." "Do you think snake killer kill muskrats?" said Rikki Tikki scornfully. "Those who kill snakes get killed by snakes," said Chuchundar, more sorrowfully than ever. And how am I to be sure that Nag wouldn't mistake me for you to some dark night?" "There is not the least danger," said Rikki Tikki, "but Nag is in the garden, and I know you don't go there." "My cousin Chuhar, the rat, told me," said Chuchundar, that then stopped. Told you what? Shh, Nag is everywhere. Rikki Tikki, you should have talked to Chuha in the garden. I didn't. So you must tell me. Quick, Shushandar, or I will bite you. Chuchandar sat down and cried till tears rolled off his whiskers. I am very poor man, he sobbed. I never had spirit enough to run out into the middle of the room. Shh, I must not tell you anything. Can't you hear Rikki Tikki? Rikki Tikki, listen. The house was as still, but he thought he could just catch the faintest scratch in the wall, a noise as faint as that of Bess walking in the window pane, the dry scratch of a snake's scales on the brickwork. That Nag or Nagina, he said himself, and he's crawling into the bathroom. Sluices, you are right, Shundar. I should have to talk to Chuha. He stole off Teddy's bathroom, and but there was nothing there. Then to Teddy's mother bathroom and the bottom of the smooth plaster wall, there was brick pulled out to the make slush of the bath water. As Rikki Tikki stole in by masonry curb where the bath is put, he heard Nag and Nagina whispering together outside the moonlight. When the house is emptied by people, said Nagina to her husband, we will have to go away, and then garden will be our own again. Go in quietly, and remember that the big man who killed Karath is the first one to bite. Then come out and tell me. We will hunt for Rikki Tikki together. But are you sure that here is anything to be gained by killing the people? Said Nag. Everything when there were no people in the bungalow. Did we have any mongoose in the garden? So long as bungalow is empty, we are king and queen of the garden. And remember that as soon as our eggs in the melon bed hatch, as they may tomorrow, our children will need room and quiet. I had not thought of that. Said Nag, I will go, but there is no need that we should hunt for Rikki Tikki afterward. I will kill the big man and his wife and the child if I can, and go come away quietly, and the bungalow will be empty and Rikki Tikki will go. Rikki Tikki tingled all over with rage and hatred of this. And then Nag's head came through the slice, and his 5 feet cold body followed it. Angrily, Rikki Tikki was frightened as he saw the size of big cobra. Nag coiled himself up, raised his head, looked into the bathroom and the dark, and Rikki could see his eyes glitter. Now, if I'll kill him here, Nagina will know. If I fought him on the open door, the odds are in his favor. What am I to? Said Rikki Tikki Tavi. Nag waved to and fro, and then Rikki Tikki heard him drinking from the biggest water jar and was used to fill the bath. That is good, said the snake. Now what when Karath was killed, the big man had a stick. He may have the stick still, but when he comes into the bath in the morning, he will not have a stick. I shall wait here till he comes again. Do you hear me? I shall wait here the cool till daytime. There was no answer from outside. So the Rikki Tikki knew that Nagina had gone away. Now coiled himself down, coil by coil, round and bulged the bottom of the water jar, and Rikki Tikki stayed still as death. After an hour, he began to move muscle by muscle toward the jar. Nag was asleep. That Rikki Tikki took at its big back, wondering which would be the best place to good hold. If I don't break his back at first jump, said Rikki Tikki, he can still fight. And if he fights, oh Rikki, he looked at the thickness of the neck below the hood, but that was too much for him, and a bite near the tail would only make Nag savage. It must be head, he said at last, the head above hood, and when I am once here, I must not let go. Then he jumped. The head was lying little clear by water jar under the curve of it as he teeth. But Rikki braced his back against the bulge of red earthenware to hold on there. This gave him just 1 second to purchase, and he made most of it. Then he was battered to and fro as rat is shaken by the dog to and fro and flur of down great circles, but in his eyes were red and held on as the body cart whipped over the floor, upsetting the tin tipper and soap dish and the flesh brush, and banged against the tin side of the bath. As he held, he closed his jaws tighter and tighter, for he made sure he would be banged to death, and for the honor of the family, he preferred to be found with his teeth locked. He was dizzy, aching, and felt shaken to the pieces when something went off. The thunderclap just behind him. A hot, wild wind knocked him senseless, and red fire singles his fur. The big man had been awakened by the noise and had fired both barrels of shotgun into Nag just behind the hood. Rikki Tikki held on with his eyes shut, for now he was quite sure he was dead. But the head did not move, and the big man picked him up and said, "It is Mongoose again. Elise, the little chap has saved our lives again." Then Teddy's mother came with a every white face and saw what was left of Nag, and Rikki Tikki dragged himself to Teddy's bedroom and spent half the rest of the night shaking himself tenderly to find out whether he was really broken into 40 pieces as he fancied. When morning came, he was very stiff but well pleased with his doings. Now I have Nagina to settle with, and she will be worse than 5 Nags, and there is no knowing where the eggs that she spoke of will has. Goodness, I must go and see Darji, he said. Without waiting the breakfast, he goes to the Darzi, and he discuss with the Darzi, the bird, and then he says, "Rikki Tikki, you are not going to eat her eggs." "Not eat exactly. No, Darzi, if you have gain of sense, you will fly off and stable and pretend that your wings is broken, and let Nagina chase you and away this bush. I must get to the melon bed, and if I went there now, she had see me." This is the planning of Mongoose Rikki Tikki, in which Darji supports him, and what happens? She fluttered in front of Nagina by rubbing rubbish heap and cried out, "Oh, my wing is broken. The boy is in the house, threw a stone at me and broke it." Then she fluttered more than desperately than ever. Nagina lifted up her head and hissed, "You want Rikki Tikki when I would have killed him. Indeed, the truly you have chosen a bad place to lay him in." And she moved towards Darji's wife, slipping along over the dust. Then Rikki Tikki heard them going up and path from the stables, and he raced for the end of the melon patch near the wall. There is in warm litter about the melons, very cunningly hidden. He found 25 eggs of Nagina, about the size of Batman's eggs, but which with whitish skin instead of shell. Then what he does, he smashed 2 eggs and tumbled backward down and melon bed with the third egg in his mouth and scuttled to the veranda as hard he could food the ground. Teddy and his mother and father were there at early breakfast, but Rikki Tikki saw that they were not eating anything. They sat stone still and their faces were white. Nagina was coiled up on the mating boy Teddy's chair within the easily striking distance of Teddy's bare leg, and she was swaying to and fro singing a song of triumph. So, what happened? He said, "Look at your eggs," said Rikki Tikki, "in the melon bed near the wall. Go and look, Nagina." The big snake turned out half round and saw the egg of Veranda. "Oh, give it to me," she said. Rikki Tikki put his paws on Vishal and his eyes were blood red. What the price for a snake's egg? For a young cobra, for a young king cobra, for the very last of the brood. The ants are eating all the others down by the melon bed. Then she said, "Tricked, tricked, tricked." Rikki chuckled Rikki Tikki. "The boy is safe, and it was I that caught Nag by hood last night in the bathroom." Then he began to jump up down, all 4 feet together. Then what happens? Rikki Tikki was bounding all round Nagaina, keeping just out of reach of her strokes, his little eyes like hot coals. Nagaina gathered herself together and flung out at him. Rikki Tikki jumped up and backward again and again. She struck, and each time her head came with the whack matting of veranda, and she gathered herself together like a watch spring. Then Rikki Tikki danced with us in a circle to get behind her, and Nagaina swung round to keep her head to his, so that rustle of her tail on the mattering sound. Then he had forgotten the egg. Then Rikki Tikki was knowing that he must catch her. All trouble would begin again when he will do this. Then what happened? He sang a very mournful song that he made up of first spur of the minute, and just he got the most touching part of the grass. Again, Rikki Tikki, covered with the dirt, dragged himself out of the hole leg by leg. Then Rikki Tikki curled himself in the grass and slept where he was slept till it was late in the afternoon. Had done a hard day's work. He has killed Nagaina. Then when Rikki Tikki got to the house, Teddy and Teddy's mother She still looked very white, for she had been fainting, and Teddy's father came out and almost cried over him. And the night he ate all that was given him till he could eat more. And I went to the bed Teddy's shoulder, and Teddy's mother saw him when she came. Look, late night. He saved our life, Teddy's life. She said to her husband, just think, he saved all our lives. Tiki Tiki woke up with the jump, for all the mongooses or light sleepers. Oh, it's you, said he. What are you bothering about? All the cobras are dead, and if they were not, I am here. Tiki Tiki had a right to be proud of himself, but he did not grow too proud. And he kept that garden as a mongoose should keep it, with the tooth and jump and spring and bit, till never a cobra dared show its head inside the walls. Here is the ending of the story. I have skipped many parts of the story because it was going too long. So thanks a lot for watching, having the patience. If you have liked it, please like and subscribe and share. Thanks a lot for watching.